All right, welcome everybody. I'm so happy that you're here. Maybe you're watching it live or on the recording. Either way, I really honor you for taking this time to invest in your diabetes care, right? To learn about what Evan has to say, to join other type 1s. I have a lot of my type 1 diabetes crew members I see on the call today. It's a monthly membership program I do, live training every week. And as you members know very well, I always want to pause and make sure that we take time to honor ourselves for any effort we make to take care of our diabetes, right? The norm seems like, oh my gosh, my numbers, I'm not crazy, or I didn't do this good enough, or why am I high, right? But no, like we're taking care of our diabetes every day. Some days are better than others. And you're investing in yourself right now. Like this is what I call the mental gym, right? Maybe some of you already exercised today and you did the physical gym. Well, this is the mental gym, right? The mental gym is like, oh, I feel better. Oh, I'm not alone. Oh, gosh, it's so nice to be part of this community because I don't ever see any type 1s in my daily life, but I can, be here, so you're investing your time right now because you want to feel better. You want to be inspired. You want to learn something new, any of those things. So I just really want everybody to honor themselves for being here. And before I introduce Evan, and right before I turned on the recording, it's always nice to just hear from you guys. So we are real people. We all have type 1. I'm assuming all of US is covered, maybe Canada. I know Lorna's in Scotland, maybe the UK, maybe we have somebody in Australia. So Evan's in Colorado, I'm in Hawaii. I'm sure we've got some East Coasters. We got the whole US covered. Anybody want to introduce yourself? Say where you're from, how long you've had type 1, anything like that? Now everybody's shouting. Now the recording's on. Okay, we got Sue. Hi, Sue.
Yeah. Hi, Dr. Jody. Sue Wilson is my name. I live in Wisconsin, and I have had type 1 for 31 years. This July, I was actually diagnosed on my birthday. Everybody always goes, "Oh, you poor thing." I know it, but actually it was a blessing. You got to find the silver line. It was a good thing. So I never forget because it was diagnosis on my birthday. So July 3rd this year will be 31 years.
31 years. All right, Sue. Well, it's lovely to see you. It's lovely to have you part of my membership. I feel like I'm getting to know you a little bit. It's lovely.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Who else? Catherine, also a member. How you doing?
Hello, friends. Hello, Dr. Jody. I'm was diagnosed 6 years ago, April. And I am really looking forward to this conversation because I have been doing yoga and I do have diabetes. So, hey.
You belong. You fit here. And Catherine, tell everybody where you're calling from.
Oh, sorry. I knew I forgot something.
Okay.
So I'll represent the West Coast of the United States. I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Portland. All right. Who else wants to say hello? Susan, crew member Susan. You got to unmute. You got this. You got this. Okay, there we go.
Hi, I'm Susan Beckman, and I'm in Austin, Texas, but came here from Colorado. So, and I'm Miss Colorado. Have been type 1 for almost 60 years, and am actually going to a wellness retreat next month in the Smoky Mountains, and yoga is like a major part of this. So this is going to help me get psyched.
Okay, good. This is your warm-up.
Yeah, I used to do yoga all the time, and then I got out of it and never really got back into it. So
here we go. It's a new chapter.
Yeah.
It's our post-COVID new world, everybody. Everybody's got a new chapter right now. All right. Thanks, Susan.
You're welcome.
I'm so excited that we have some men on the call. Would either of you, there's only 2 of you with your video on. Would either of you boldly like to say hello? All right, go Pete. got to unmute.
Hey, I've been type 1 since I was 8, since 2005. And I just moved last week from Virginia to Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, wow.
And I've been trying to get into yoga, and I saw you posted this, Jody, in a Diabesties Facebook group. So I'm really excited.
Okay. Well, Boulder. I love Boulder. I lived there for a year. What a great town. I actually had the thought yesterday. I'm like, should I move to Boulder? I don't know. I still don't know where I'm living. All right. Thanks. Anybody else want to say hello? All right. Well, Henry. Okay, good. I wanted to give you a second. Go, Henry.
Okay, Hank Hessler, been type 1 since 1961, and met Jody up in Billings, Montana, when she was doing, I think it was an internship with Dr. Margaret Beeson, correct?
Oh my goodness, Hank. Yes, that's exactly correct. That is correct. Yeah, we did. We met in person in Margaret's office.
Okay, well,
So good to see you.
okay, and I live, good to see you, and I live up in northwest Wyoming, and one reason I'm here is my wife is a certified yoga instructor.
Oh, great.
So I thought I'd better learn something about type 1 diabetes and yoga.
Awesome. Great, Hank. Well, what a lovely surprise to see your face again. That was probably in 2014, I think, something like that. Yeah. Okay, thanks, everybody.
It was a few days ago.
It was a few days ago. That's right. All right. Well, without further ado, I am. Whoops! I got it. We have a few more people in the waiting room. I gotta manage the waiting room as I'm clicking around out here. All right. So Evan is the founder of. Gosh, I hope you know what? I'm so sorry, Evan. How do you say your last name? I want to make sure I get that.
Soroka, thank you.
Soroka. Okay,
Yeah.
beautiful. Evan Soroka is the founder of Soroka Yoga Therapy in Aspen and the author of Yoga Therapy for Diabetes. She's been featured in Yoga Journal, is a regular contributor to Yoga International magazines. She was diagnosed with type 1 in adolescence and degenerative disc disease. Evan has practiced yoga since her teens as an adjunct to healthcare. Yoga, and more specifically, breathing and meditation, are keys for helping her manage the physical and mental challenges of living with chronic illness and pain. Her firsthand experience makes her a uniquely skilled and compassionate guide for all seeking yoga as a health providing tool. She has gone on to receive some of the highest credentials in yoga education from the prestigious American Vinny Yoga Institute.
Hello.
Hello.
All right. So I'm going to just mute all. It's obviously we all have a lot of noise sometimes in the background. So I'm going to mute all, and then I'm going to unmute Evan. And welcome, Evan.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Jody. Like many of you, I've been following Dr. Jody for years, and she upholds this quality of commitment and authenticity that I myself like to bring to my teaching and my work with type 1 diabetes. So I'm just really happy to be here with all of you, all new faces. So thank you guys for showing up. This is something obviously very near and dear to my heart, and I'm excited to share with you my experience. I've been type 1 it will be 23 years in September of this year. I was born in New York City, but I was raised in Colorado, and I was diagnosed basically on a backpacking trip through the 4-pass loop system up here in the Elk Mountains when I was 13. And
I love that story because you put it in the book, and she's like, I'm not sick. I'm going to go out and be in the wild with just like a day's worth of water that I'm going to drink all in the first hour.
Yeah, so I have a little anecdote in my book about my diagnosis story, and I'll just be really brief. But in eighth grade up here in Aspen, I don't think that they do this anymore, but back then they would give you like a rite of passage. You were given a tarp, a water bottle, and a Snickers bar, and you were at 14,000 feet, and you had to like construct your own shelter. And for 24 hours, you were by yourself in nature, not allowed to see anyone. And you had one water bottle and one Snickers bar. And if you ate the Snickers bar, you were like, you failed. So that was when I really felt like something was wrong. Like I had been going through so many changes at 13 physically, but in that quiet space, I was really afforded that opportunity to sense and hear my body that really there was something going on, right? We all have a diagnosis story, and I'm sure you guys can remember like all of those sensations, all of those physical changes. But that was for me, getting that quiet, being in nature allowed me to hear that. So yeah. And then shortly after that, I found yoga. But it was not an easy ride getting there.
Right. I love the part. Well, I mean, I've like underlined and highlighted so much in your book, by the way, about you telling the story about like, that wasn't your thing. But I love this quote. You said that yoga is more than a life preserver. It's the wings that help you rise up and soar above diabetes. Yeah, there's just so much good stuff in here. I believe that diabetes can be synonymous with health, she says in the very first paragraph of her book. I feel this way because of what yoga practice has taught me and continues to teach me. It's my primary source of self-care, support, and inspiration. It's what works for me, and I wrote this book to share it with you. And I'm just going to read a little bit more because it's so good. The problem is that diabetes is hard. And although we've given a lot of tools to help manage this thing, it's always changing. We never know which way it's going to turn. We've got to be shapeshifters, moving like the wind with every ebb and turn diabetes throws at us. I love that you're talking about like the wind, because that's why I call my membership program the Type 1 Diabetes Crew. And I use the picture of a sailboat all the time, because we're a crew on the boat, we're navigating diabetes, right? And because it's so different. The experience of diabetes is a metaphor for all of life, which I think is brilliant. Good days, bad days, what tools do we have to manage it, right? And what can we learn from it, right? Are we going to be like angry, or are we going to rise above? Let me take a step back and say I'm by no means perfect. I still strive to improve and have days when it gets me down. So human. But I also know that I would not be half the person I am today without it, which is such a beautiful attitude. It has taught me what it means to appreciate life and persevere. Sorry, not persevere. Evan, it's so beautiful. I just literally, that was her first page of her book. And as soon as I read this, I was like, that is my soul sister. I have to meet her. And the reason why we met is she simply is a follower and sent me an email to thank me for what I do and wanted to mail me her book. And then I said, I have to interview you. So that's how this came to be. Beautiful, Evan.
Thank you. And that's what I intend to pass along with the tools of yoga-based practices for people, because this is so unique. Diabetes is so unique compared to other chronic illnesses. Don't get me wrong, other chronic illnesses are so challenging as well, but there's nothing quite like diabetes and how it impacts us on so many different layers of our personality, what it is that we're doing with our day, how we relate to others, how we're living both in our inner world and in our outer world. We have to consider diabetes first. So unless there's an ability for us to be able to look at diabetes, I guess, objectively, rather than something that is subjectively a part of us, that gives us so much more freedom in our experience of treating diabetes, because then we can forgive the mistakes, right? We can forgive the mistakes, learn from them, move on. And really, I mean, what is this all about? It's about the quality of our lives, right? This is about living our best life with diabetes, really taking care of our health, but seeing that not necessarily as a chore that like we have to do, but if something that we love to do, right? And the reason why we love to do it is because we inherently know that our life is something that's very sacred and special.
So beautifully said.
Yeah.
So beautifully said. I think that's so important in all of life, isn't it? That our attitude is everything. I've been drawn to this kind of study of how to be the best version of myself and how to be the healthiest version of myself and how to make the most of my life. I just was born that way. I remember when I was 16, I posted that up in my locker. Like, attitude is everything. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% your attitude. And, so many people are like, diabetes is the worst thing that's happened to me. And so many people are like, diabetes is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Diabetes itself is neutral, right? We just put whatever story we want on it. We put whatever, we're all story makers. We can make whatever story we want up about it, because there's as many different stories about diabetes as there are people with diabetes.
Definitely. And I think that what yoga can provide to us as people with type 1 diabetes, more than an opportunity to exercise, which is very important, and it should be part of, if not our daily rituals, several times a week, very important. And it's a great strategy for us to improve physical fitness. What yoga practices do is they provide so much more than just the physical. They help us with, like Jody was saying at the very beginning of this space between our ears and our attitudes and our perceptions, and really help to create a protective process that we can, in effect, reduce some of the risk that goes along with living with chronic illness for your lifetime.
So before we get into really the specifics of what we want everybody to be able to take away, Evan and I talked before the recording started about basically the 4 steps, the 4 takeaway points that we want you to really be able to gain. And those are breathing techniques, meditation, movement. Yeah, couldn't even read my own writing. I was like, wait a minute, where's movement? And rest, right? So all 4 of those are practice, right? So yoga isn't just going to yoga class at all, right? We have meditation, we have rest, we have breathing. So we really want you to be able to take away tools, even if there's just like one thing that you guys can take away and be like, okay, I'm going to try that. Because the goal of today's talk is to not only inspire you and motivate you, but to give you the takeaway box, give the takeaway bag with like, okay, this is what I'm going to do after today's interview, right? But before we dive into those practices, Evan, why don't you tell us a little bit more deeper into, like, you got diabetes, you weren't into yoga when you got diabetes.
No.
How did it go from like, I don't do this thing to like, I live for this thing?
Necessity. That transition of after diagnosis was chaotic. It was pretty ugly. Mm-hmm. And how we navigate, again, this analogy of navigating those seas, the turbulent seas of that post-diagnosis time, where we're just like trying to come to terms and accept the fact that we've got something that's never going to leave us, right? And in a way, there's like a mourning, right? We're like mourning this life that we used to have, or this life that we thought we're going to have, and then coming to terms with a new way of living. It's challenging. So I was really struggling emotionally, really intense emotions, developing negative coping strategies, like eating disorders for one. It was like a control issue for me, in addition to excessive alcohol use and those kinds of things, just to kind of like quell the symptoms and this burden that I was experiencing, that I don't think I had that awareness at the time. And I forgive myself for that, but I didn't have the awareness at the time to understand that, that diabetes and uncontrolled blood sugars were really affecting my emotions, my thoughts, and my behaviors. So I sought out therapies, and I was going to a psychoanalyst. I was being put on antidepressants. And then I had a friend go to a yoga class, and I saw the difference in her. She just was like this completely different person afterwards. She seemed so peaceful and at ease, and she was a very intense person. She was like sedated. It was like this, the best version of her all of a sudden had like come out. And I just thought, wow, I need that in my life. And I started going when I was 16, started going to classes, and started going on my own. And that's really just, that's the start of it, you know. And yoga, what it does is, there's so many, as we've alluded to, there's so many ways of practicing yoga, but the aim is the same. It's to help you remember who you are and get out of the way of yourself. Right?
And so much more, and so much more.
And so much more. Yeah. So I started just, you know, feeling better. When I started feeling better, I started choosing better, making better decisions. And it has accompanied me as a support strategy to diabetes and more. You know, and now I'm 36, and I have a daily practice, and I rely on it as a way to not only feel better. Like last night, I had a low blood sugar in the middle of the night. I don't get those very often, but I did, and my energy was low this morning. So I did my practice specific for that, and I was able to build my energy back up, you know, and so I could get to my work this morning and be very present.
Well, what we're talking about, I really honor you sharing your story. I think it makes it more tangible for all of us to kind of hear that you weren't always like this yoga expert. You know, I think it's really important for all of us to know where we came from. And the big takeaway, one of the many for today for all of you, is that number one, we have an intense condition. We have a challenging condition. And number two, we will all be better off if we adopt practices that can help us feel better, you know, period. Right. And this discussion is so important because oftentimes the only discussion is what's your number, what's your A1C, what's your number, what's your A1C, couldn't it be better? Whoa, that's heavy. That is a heavy conversation if that's the only conversation you're having around your diabetes. Right. So this is stepping back, not caring about your number, right? Just looking about you as a person, like, okay, you have this condition. It takes a lot of work. You might not know anybody around you that can't spontaneously eat an apple. I always tell people I can eat fruit. I just can't eat it spontaneously. That's what I tell people. They're like, can you eat that? I'm like, yes, but just not without warning. People are like, what? I'm like, never mind. So I mean, obviously you guys can tell, like I have a big heart. I want to help people. And I'm out there as Dr. Jody helping you set your basal rates right. But what I get super excited about is this topic, honoring yourself and figuring out what do you need. Like, think about it right now in your mind. Like, how empowered are you feeling about yourself and your body and your diabetes? On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 is like, well, if you're a 1, you're not even on this call, right? And 10 is like, I've never felt better. I am so proud of myself. I am rocking it, right? So we're all somewhere in there, right? And my goal for you is to take away from today's call something that helps you, bring that number up a little bit, right? So more quotes from your book. Diabetes is not just a disease. It's part of a person, and it can adversely affect their well-being and quality of life unless they learn how to manage it, which is exactly what we're talking about on the mental level, right? Not just the diabetes is not just about a number, right? It's about being resilient and adaptive to an illness that's always changing. But Western View does not really say how to do this, right? Because everyone is different. And it's not enough to encourage people to just maintain a healthy lifestyle, right? How many times have we heard that? Where most people are falling short is in the self-care mental and emotional spectrum of diabetes management. They need to be shown how and why taking time to prioritize this will change their lives. And that's what we're attempting to do today. So, Evan, let's start in. So there's 4 steps we want you to take away today. 4 steps. And we'll probably, Evan, let's do 15 minutes of Q&A.
Yeah.
So let's talk on these 4 steps for the next 15 minutes.
Right.
And the 4 steps, Evan's going to give you kind of a take-home practice, if you will, about each. If we can do that in 15 minutes, that might be really maybe shooting too big, but we'll try. Breathing and movement, meditation, and rest.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm going to actually start with movement, if that's okay with you.
It's up to you. Absolutely.
Yeah. So movement, I'm starting with that intentionally because we're most identified with our bodies, right? We know our bodies, we feel our bodies. And so movement is the most tangible form of, let's say, self-care. And we typically think of movement generally as physical exercise. But with yoga, what we're using are postures, and these postures are called asanas. Asana means in Sanskrit, it means to take seat in your body. And more or less what that means is that as you're performing a pose, any shape change of yoga, what it is that you're presenting your awareness in your physical body. So it's in one way of arriving in the present moment and allowing yourself to feel and experience everything going on without reactivity. Okay. So that's one thing. And what we're learning through movement is how to be more aware of our body in time and space, but also more aware of the sensations that we're experiencing. And with diabetes, this is an essential. We need to have sensitivity to our blood sugars, sensitivity to what we're feeling, sensitivity in terms of understanding, like if we eat a certain food, how's that going to affect not only our blood sugars, but our digestion. So starting with our body, it just brings up so much awareness of what's going on, right? Both on a physical level and a psychological level. But in addition to that, what movement helps us do if we're applying yoga in a strategic way to help us with blood sugars is that we can use specific types of postures to help us if our blood sugars are trending in a specific direction. So for instance, I'm like looking at my blood sugar was creeping up. I miscalculated my bolus today at lunch. My blood sugar was creeping up. And if I were noticing that I was having like a postprandial spike, which is like the spike after you've eaten a meal and your blood sugars are creeping up really high, you could use standing postures, more dynamic, stronger postures like a flow, for instance. Pick 2 or 3 standing poses and use that as like an intervention strategy to perhaps stop the spike in its tracks.
So, Evan, I love that. Moving our body is one of the best ways to make our insulin work faster and stronger. So I tell all my crew members know this, that after you've done a bolus for those next 2 hours, you got a lot of power in your body because the first 2 hours after your bolus are insulin at its most powerful. It starts weaning off its power after 2 hours. So you can use activity to make that insulin work stronger as opposed to just taking more and correcting more and then going low later, right? So Evan, can you, what would be one standing pose that you would recommend?
I'm going to show you.
Yeah, please.
The chair. So I'll show you 2 standing poses.
Okay, perfect.
Simple strategy would be like chair pose.
Yeah.
So, but dynamic. So you could sit down on your exhale. You could even conceivably have a chair behind you and then, slowly come up on your inhale. And so what you're doing is activating these larger class muscles of your body, like the muscles in your back, your glutes, my quads here, they're going to require more energy.
Yep.
And that's going to help you get insulin circulating and get things moving. So that would be one. I was going to show you one more. So it's just simple stuff like standing with one foot forward and then bending into your front knee. It's warrior one. And you could take an inhale and lift your arms up and then come out of it on the exhale. And we're going to talk about breath here in a moment. But actually doing this with your breath, it creates a really nice kind of cardiovascular effect to it. And the benefit of doing a few postures like this, rather than maybe even going and doing some like longer duration exercise, is that you can shorten the duration and reduce the risk of subsequent hypoglycemia.
Yeah. I think it's important for everybody to understand, because I know my crew members understand, but what we're referring to is anytime you use movement when you have insulin on board, right? It's going to reduce your or increase your insulin sensitivity. But I always one of the things that I want all of you guys to understand, and hopefully you follow me or join the membership or something, is to know how to avoid the low at the same time, right? And so that's a whole nother tangent. But I just had to put that little moment in there, because one of the things that bothers me is when people are afraid to exercise because they're afraid of lows. And
Right.
I'm always like, I want to help you get over that fear and know how to do it differently. So I just had to say that. Okay, so great. So obviously both of those poses, you're using the biggest muscles in your body, your quads, right?
Yeah.
And the more we activate our quads, the more we're getting our blood circulation going. And then, you're breathing in, you're breathing out. So anytime we get the body moving, we're going to make our insulin work better, right? I saw this handout once that a doctor gave to his patient, and he said, if you're 200, you have to wait, 2 hours before you eat. If you're 250, you have to wait 2.5 hours before you eat. If you're 150, you have to wait an hour before you eat. And I'm like, dose and go move.
Yeah.
Like, don't just wait for your high to come down. Like, go move.
And this is what is distinguishing yoga from yoga therapy, is that we're applying these yogic-based practices for something specific for diabetes,
Awesome.
right?
Yeah.
Versus
And her
like
book goes definitely into that.
what?
Right? I said your book definitely goes into that.
We do. And that's what I hope you guys can see the distinction. That's why I wanted to pause and let you guys really know the distinction between practicing for something specific versus, like, let's say going to a class, which is going to be very beneficial and health providing for you, versus applying something for, let's say, a diabetes imbalance in the moment.
Right. A diabetes focused yoga versus just a yoga class, right? Okay, so you have two practices you can do when your sugar level is elevated, or just when you want an increase in energy, really. Let's talk about breathing.
Breathing it's the best thing ever. If you guys are not breathing, I want you to take pause and let's actually take a breath right now. Let's just take one full breath. Nice long exhale. You already feel more in your body. Already in your body. And there's something to say for the old saying, take a deep breath. It is our power to choose. That's what our breath gives us. It's our power to choose what to do in the midst of something that's challenging. So I find that with diabetes, we can get really wrapped up with our habits, and we see a number we don't like, and we go right into our habit pattern of maybe taking a certain type of correction or responding in a certain way or not feeling well, and we tend towards a certain type of food. When we're applying breathing practices, what we're doing is we are consciously, and I'm going to slow this down because I want you guys to get it. We are consciously influencing something that happens physiologically in our body. So something that happens automatically. Our bodies are constantly doing this orchestration of keeping everything in balance. When we're breathing, we're consciously changing that that orchestration that's happening automatically by deciding to breathe, right? So our breath gives us the power to influence our physiology, to help us choose. And when I wanted to back up because I don't think I'm making this clear enough. What our breathing does is it helps to create this beautiful balance of our nervous system. Okay. And when we have type 1 diabetes, stress is a big part of keeping our blood sugars in check, and it's a big part of our mental health. So by practicing breath on a daily basis or several times a week, what we're doing is we're influencing our nervous system, we're influencing our physiology, and we're influencing that space in between our ears. But because if you can take 5 minutes and breathe, you're going to change your nervous system, what's happening within your nervous system, but that's going to help you change what's going on in your mind. Like what type of thoughts are circulating, what types of emotions are circulating. And what yoga teaches us is that the breath is what helps us to see more clearly. Okay, really helps us to perceive what's really real versus maybe what's something that's let's say coming from our blood sugars being awry, or for us being stressed out, right? Because when we're wrapped up in that, we can't see clearly.
That's so
I
true.
hope I make that clear enough.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're altered. When the blood sugar level is high or low, we're in an altered state. We're not thinking clearly. So obviously we're not going to be able to go deep into all four, but breathing practices, there's a lot of different breathing practices out there, and we don't have time to go into them today, but but just simply taking a deep breath, that's a beautiful one.
Simply taking a deep breath. But I would say the most important one we can be focusing on with diabetes, with type 1 specifically, is our exhalation. So if you guys, would you guys be cool doing like 2 minutes of an exhalation breathing practice? Do you think we've got time for that, Jody? And
well, we're just going to probably have less time for Q&A, but I think I love doing a hands-on. Let's do it. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's do a hands-on lengthening the exhale so you guys can feel it. So we're going to do an exhalation that is divided into 2 parts. Okay. And so what we're going to do is you're going to work with your normal exhale, but we're going to take that and divide it in half. And we're going to allow for a little pause. And what this little pause does is it allows us to actually lengthen the exhale. The exhale calms our nervous system. It helps to calm the mind, amongst other things. So this is a really great strategy, especially for diabetes with type 1, because we get really wired and, excited and overwhelmed at the same time. Okay. So I'm going to have you guys sit up if you can. If you're comfortable, close your eyes. And just take a few normal breaths. And what I mean by normal is shape your breaths, deepen your inhale, lengthen your exhale. And breathe in a way that feels good. It doesn't feel like you're pushing it or straining. And you might notice when you're inhaling, your rib cage, your abdomen will expand. As you're exhaling, experience the navel drawing towards the spine. So let's take one more normal breath like this, and then we'll begin after the next inhale. So you'll inhale and exhale. More inhale. And now please exhale half of your exhalation capacity. Pause, and then exhale the second half. So your lungs empty to a comfortable empty, and then pause. And now inhale slowly without gasping for air. Exhale half of your exhale. Pause. Exhale the remainder. Pause. Inhale slowly. Exhale half. Feel the navel draw towards the spine just a little bit. Pause. Exhale the remainder. Pause. And inhale slowly. So let's do one more round of breath like that. Exhale half. Take a brief pause. Exhale the remainder. Pause, holding the breath out. And then inhale and exhale normally. A few more inhales and exhales normally. Just notice any effect from the breathing practice. And that was a relatively short breathing practice. You could conceivably do that for up to 5-10 minutes. But what I hope you can experience is that even just after 4 short breaths, maybe you feel a little bit more embodied, relaxed, present. And this is what I'm talking about, is our ability to be present so we can be clear in all of our diabetes management decisions.
I feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the beauty of that one is the simplicity, right? I mean, you can do that anytime, anywhere. You can even do that when you're talking to somebody, kind of. I mean, I sometimes I get super eager, or, you know, I've got a lot going on in the middle of talking to one of you guys when I'm working with you privately. And I'll even think, okay, you know, I will kind of do my own kind of calming practice in the middle of working with you guys, right? So I turn it on anytime. Driving.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should get to Q&A. So you guys have 2 good takeaways right now. Those 2 practices that the 2 movements, right? The chair pose and the forward lunge, right? The warrior one, I should say, for when you need to get your insulin to work faster. And then just the breathing, right? The breathing to stay grounded. Evan's other 2 really important, you know, things, of course, are meditation and rest, which we could talk a whole nother hour or more on each of those. But I want to end on time, and I just want to make sure that people have time to ask you questions, Evan. So who has a question or a comment? And if we don't, we can go on to the other 2 topics, but feel free. So to ask a question, if your video is on, obviously you can just raise your hand, but otherwise you go to participants, you see your name, and then you put the cursor next to your name and click on more, and then it should be able to say, raise your hand. And if not, we can just talk more. Okay, great. Also, though, before we wrap up, I've mentioned a lot about the membership program, the crew. So I'm going to probably take the last 5 minutes to talk about that. But Evan, let's take the next 5 minutes to talk about meditation and rest.
Great. So like we've talked about, we often hear that healthy stress reduction practices, energy management, and rest are essential pillars in diabetes management. We don't have a lot of clear methods as to how to go about it. And meditation is really a simple strategy that we can do on a regular basis, and it can be 5 minutes or longer, to help us just check in with ourselves and to not be doing. I think one of the byproducts and the challenges of working with type 1 diabetes is that we're constantly doing, we're constantly assessing, we're constantly searching what's going on, how am I feeling, yada, 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 that we don't really take pause and ask ourselves, how are we feeling? What's going on? And just allow for our thoughts to come in. So yogic-based meditation helps us to, with specific practices that with meditation, rather than just sitting there and asking our minds to be quiet, what yogic meditation asks us to do is to focus on one thing. And so you could put a timer on for 5 minutes and simply pay attention to the fact that your body is breathing. It is the simplest strategy you can do, is just notice that your body is breathing without trying to change your breath. So in the pranayama, the breathing practice, we were changing and influencing our breath. In meditation, we just let our breath be natural and observe it, not trying to change anything. Your mind will wander. We're not trying to quiet our mind, but just allowing, and we notice that our mind is distracted, come back to the feeling and the awareness of your breath. And the more regularly you're doing that, you start to drop into a really beautiful state of awareness, and that you're able to bring that awareness into your diabetes management from that calm, clear, present state. Yeah.
So good. So simple. So good. And
Yeah.
it sounds so simple, but it's certainly not easy, right? I like to sit for 10, sometimes I'll set my clock for 3 minutes, right? My ideal day, I set it for 20 minutes. And my mind's very busy the whole time, but my practice is just trying not to judge that and keep coming back. Like you said, just don't expect, like people will tell me that I can't meditate. I'm like, if we define meditation as a perfectly calm mind, then I don't think very many people can meditate. I mean, maybe some people, but it's really just the intention. It's how calm and kind to yourself can you be, right? While we're doing it.
Right. And I want to end on this note that, the more you're trusting yourself to try out these practices and be your own guinea pig, your own science experiment, the more value you're going to receive from them. And the more you're going to understand why they're valuable. Because we could talk about these things all day. And when we talk about it, it's great. We're using our brains, we're using our minds. It's a very intellectual process. But when we start to experience it for ourselves, what happens is embodiment. And it's a direct experience of this peace that I'm referring to. Because that's what this is. It's about giving yourself peace, and you are the one who creates that peace for yourself.
I love it. And that goes right in line with my T1D crew membership, is that we need, as type 1s, to be empowered to know how to manage our blood sugar levels. We need to be empowered to know how to set and test our basal rates. We need to be empowered to know how to make adjustments, right? The navigation of life, the navigation of diabetes. I want everybody to feel confident that I know how to navigate this, right? I know how to navigate my blood sugar levels and my basal rates and my dosing, right? So it's you're right. It's life and diabetes are so many parallels.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's actually a blessing. Like I said, I found yoga out of necessity. This is a necessity for so many of us. And I think it gives us an extra leg up. And why I say that diabetes is synonymous with health is because it's requiring in so many ways for us to start to find other methods to really truly connect and to help us navigate these seas of our lives, right? Because diabetes is just one example of the totality of all of our lives.
So true.
So we're learning how to be better humans through our diabetes.
Right. It's like we're in the master program, the master program of life. Okay, life is challenging, but I'm going to give you a little stronger challenge because you can rise to it, right? That's how I like to see it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Evan, how can people follow you, learn more from you, order your book?
Yeah. Well, so Yoga Therapy for Diabetes, it's available on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble, on Goodreads. And I'm on Instagram, very active on Instagram. So I'm doing lots of lives there. My handle is Evan_Soroka. And I offer several programs every quarter for diabetes. So we just finished up our last 6 week. It's called Rise Above Type 1 Diabetes. But this summer, I'm going to just let you know, it's not even out there yet, but we have a breathing practice seminar. So a workshop on how to use specific breathing practices for diabetes challenges. And then I mean me, myself and I have a rest retreat. We're focusing mostly on yoga nidra, deep relaxation strategies for people with type 1 diabetes.
Awesome. And are these virtual or in person?
Yeah, they're all virtual. I'm hoping to be able to have in-person stuff as soon as stuff starts to open up again.
Yeah.
But you can go to my website. It's Soroka Yoga Therapy, and you can sign up for the mailing list, and you'll find out all about the stuff that's coming up this summer and fall.
Great. Great. Yeah. Evan. Okay, we get to talk more for sure. Yeah. I want to do more retreats too. So that's we have discussion going on there.
Colorado, Jody, Colorado.
Yes, I would love to. Well, there's actually already a type 1 who runs an adventure bicycling company in Colorado. So you guys I have to introduce you to him, and then all three of us will do a retreat.
Yes.
Okay, so everybody gets so inspired after these talks, right? This feels good. This feels supportive. I want more of this. I want more support. I want more Dr. Jody inspiration, right? Well, hey, I've got that for you. Okay, so let's show you what the type 1 diabetes crew is all about. So if any of the crew members want to share what their experience is about, that would be lovely. The type 1 diabetes crew is, first of all, it's just like a private Facebook group, right? Like I make all these posts. I say, hey, you guys, there's this free ebook I made for you. Hey, why don't you come and listen to Evan today? Hey, here's a cool compassionate voice work recording that I want you to listen to, help you with your mental health. Well, I guess it's all me pointing, but Sandra asked about pneumonia, and then I like to go, hey, who are we? I put a poll out. Emma has questions about a basal rate buddy. So, this is a great community where we can chat. Now, this is just the free version though. This is just like a private Facebook group. And there's about 200 people in the free version. In the education membership, that is where I go live every Monday or Tuesday. And if any of you that are, let's see, I'm just gonna open this up, and I just put a bunch of courses in here too that I'm gonna be emailing you all about. So this is where we do the live videos. And if you can't make them live, they're on Mondays at 12:30 Pacific and at Tuesdays at 5:30 Pacific, one a week. And these are all the discussions we've had since January. I wanted to start with inspiration in January. February was all about how to set basal rates. March was all about why carb counting falls short. And April, how to avoid lows. Well, we're actually not really, yes, we did talk about that. And May, we're talking about eating and type 1. So even if you could watch one of these a month, one 30 to 45 minute video a month, you will get your $47 a month value. I have no doubt. One of these contains so many tools and tips for, how to set your basal rate, or, why carb counting doesn't work. This itself right here is worth $47. So I know sometimes the biggest people's, obstacles are like, I don't have time. And I'm like, well, the benefit, right? The benefit that you'll get is way above spending the 30, 60 minutes. Do any of you that are in the crew want to share your experience of how it's helped you so far, or why you like it? Anybody? Sue? Lorna?
My A1C has dropped by about 1.5% since joining the crew in January.
That is that, period. End of story, right?
Yeah, there's also a lot of stuff that you say that I kind of like, yeah, I thought that, but my endo's been telling me, no, it's wrong for years, like about like not everyone's blood sugar drops by 2.5 millimoles per unit and things like that.
Well, you've learned so much. It's been so great. Lorna is like one of our most dedicated crew members. I don't think you've missed a video. Maybe one. I mean, it's the middle that it gets late for you because she's in the UK.
The Monday one's okay. It's like 8:30 UK time, but the Tuesday one is like 1:30 on Wednesday morning. So it's late if you've got work the next day.
Yeah. So membership is actually closed right now. I'm only open membership every quarter, every few months, and I am opening it up May 15th. But I want to give you guys all a bonus today. I just actually opened up membership just for the next 24 hours because I want to, obviously you guys are the most committed ones here, right? You just invested this time in this gym, if you will, like the emotional gym, right? And we have one comment even here that says, how can we stay together? How can we meet again, right? Well, the crew and I, we meet every week. You know, it's like I see Amy and Sue and Susan and Lorna every week, Diane. So join us. And today, if you join in the next 24 hours, I will give you that how to avoid the blood sugar roller coaster course for free. It's my most succinct training for how to set your basal rates that is out there, as well as a little bit about how the only thing that causes a low is insulin, understanding that better, and understanding that carb counting alone doesn't work, right? Carb counting alone doesn't work. There's a lot more to dosing. So let me put the link for you guys into the chat. And right here is, so do you guys see the chat? You know, it's on the, if you, the little message box and it says chat. So here is the link. And like I said, the courses or the option to join is available for the next 24 hours. And then I'll close it and then I'm opening it again for 2 weeks because you guys are kind of getting a head start advance. And I also want to give you that bonus just to honor you for taking the time to be here today. So does anybody have any questions about what I presented or what Evan presented? Any comments about what you're taking away from today's call? I always love to that, right? You reinforce what you learn when you speak it back, right? I am taking away that I'm going to commit to doing breathing practices every day for the next 7 days. I'll set my phone for even 3 minutes and just be calm because I get really excited and I get worked up. And I think that the 3 minutes will help me. And I like that half breath. That was really good. So my nervous system could definitely use some chilling out. Anybody else? Comments, questions? Yes, Sue.
Multiple things. This has inspired me. I have done yoga quite a bit in the past, but it has inspired me to get back into doing it. Does it matter what kind of yoga? Because there are different kinds. And I guess I had a question too about some of your programs. Do you have to be an experienced yoga person? Can you be entry level or, do you have to have certain abilities to participate?
So I'll answer your second question first, Sue. No, you do not need to be experienced. As you might have heard in the intro bio, I also have degenerative disc disease. So many of my practices are really based on functional movement. We're not trying to contort our bodies. We're not trying to do like that at all. It's really about creating that peace that I'm referring to, right? That place within where you can be calm, you can be balanced physically, energetically, and with a sound mind. And then to answer your first question, does it matter what type of yoga? It all depends. We don't want to be doing anything that's injurious to us. So my recommendation is do what feels good and feels sustainable, right? We never want to be forcing or hurting our bodies. Unfortunately, there's a lot of yoga out there that really does reinforce like it's supposed to look a certain way. So if you're trying to go somewhere locally, find a place that feels good to you. It feels supportive. You feel comfortable. I always lean towards smaller yoga studios versus like the bigger chains. going to have more support that way, I think.
Can
Yeah.
you get as good a benefits on your own? I live in a smaller community, and we don't always have these types of classes. So sometimes I'm on my own, and then that's a little intimidating because you're not sure if you're doing it right. So on your own, are you, just do what you can, do the best you can?
So part of what I do is I work with people to create prescriptive practices for their own self-care. So I would say, yes, at home, you can definitely receive a benefit, but it's important to have some level of guidance from a skilled professional.
Okay.
I'm assuming you would do you do private Zooms?
Yeah, I do private Zooms, like mentorship packages and those kinds of things.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, thank you. I'll
Evan,
look
do
at
you
your
Do you want to
website.
put your website in the chat for everybody?
Oh, sorry. I wrote that just to Andrea, to everyone.
Okay, there it is. Soroka Yoga Therapy. Easy to remember. That's great. SOROKAY.
Okay.
KA, and then yoga therapy.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Evan, I can't thank you enough. I really look forward to meeting you in person one day. And thank you for sharing your wisdom and being another type 1 online that's inspiring us, right? We all need to have this expanded support that oftentimes is lacking from our, our quick little endo appointments. And so it's, I just think this virtual world is awesome. I think the way it connects people all around the world, and we can sit every week and be together or whenever, is just so beautiful. And you reached out to me just to thank me, and I feel very excited to know you now and have a new virtual type 1 bestie.
Thanks, Dr. Jody. I feel exactly the same way. And I just want to thank you all for joining and connecting and letting me share what it is that I love most. So
it's so beautiful.
Service.
It's so beautiful. We, I kind of think like we all need each other, right? I need you guys need us. It's like, there's definitely, everybody brings value to the table, and it's so, it's wonderful, right? We're here to be in community. So please take this inspiration that you're feeling right now. And I hope you either reach out to Evan or reach out to me. I would love to see you in the crew. Our next meeting is it's either next Monday or Tuesday. We have one every week. So it's very inspirational. It's $47 a month. And I think it's some of the best education and support out there. I'm a little biased, but Okay, everybody, I'm going to stop the recording. And thank you, everybody, and honor yourself, right? You just did like an hour gym session at the Emotional Gym. I'm hoping you feel better. You feel more inspired. Excellent. Okay, thank you so much, Evan. Thank you for your time, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Have a good day.